Tick, tock, tick, tock. In a basement office in Chicago, a clock has been counting down for 78 years. But this is not an ordinary timepiece. This is the Doomsday clock, and it measures how close humanity stands to its own annihilation. Today, that clock reads 90 seconds to midnight, the closest we have ever been to the end. Not 90 seconds literally, but 90 seconds symbolically. 90 seconds until nuclear fire. 90 seconds until irreversible climate collapse. 90 seconds until artificial intelligence spirals beyond our control. The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists moves this clock forward or backward each January based on existential threats facing our species. In 1947, it began at 7 minutes to midnight. By 1953, after the first hydrogen bomb tests, it reached 2 minutes. But in 2023, something unprecedented happened. The scientists moved it to 90 seconds, and it has remained there ever since. We are living closer to extinction than our grandparents during the Cuban Missile Crisis, closer than the height of the Cold War, closer than any moment in recorded human history. This is the story of how we arrived at the edge, and whether we can still step back. August 6, 1945. The world changed in an instant. When the atomic bomb obliterated Hiroshima, followed 3 days later by Nagasaki, humanity had achieved the unthinkable, the power to erase itself from existence. The scientists who built these weapons, Oppenheimer, Fermi, Szilard, understood immediately what they had unleashed. Many would spend the rest of their lives trying to put the genie back in the bottle. In 1945, they founded the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists. Their mission, to warn the world of technologies that could end civilization. 2 years later, artist Martel Langsdorff created the Doomsday Clock for the Bulletin's cover. Her husband, a physicist on the Manhattan Project, came home one night and said, "We're running out of time." She painted a clock, set it to 7 minutes before midnight. Midnight represented total annihilation. Every minute before it, a chance at survival. The clock became an icon, a stark visual reminder that human ingenuity outpaced human wisdom, that our ability to destroy evolved faster than our ability to cooperate. For decades, the clock measured primarily nuclear risk, but in the 21st century, new threats emerged, each one capable of pushing us closer to midnight. Right now, at this very moment, there are 12,500 nuclear warheads in existence, enough to destroy human civilization 50 times over, enough to plunge Earth into nuclear winter that would last decades, enough to make our planet uninhabitable. The United States and Russia possess 90% of these weapons, but 9 nations now have nuclear capabilities: the UK, France, China, India, Pakistan, Israel, and North Korea. One modern warhead contains the destructive power of 800 Hiroshima bombs. A single Ohio-class submarine carries enough firepower to eliminate every major city in an entire hemisphere. And here's what keeps military analysts awake at night. The margin for error has never been thinner. September 26, 1983. Soviet officer Stanislav Petrov sat in a bunker when alarms screamed. Satellites detected 5 American ICBMs launching toward Moscow. Protocol demanded he report an attack, triggering automatic retaliation and World War III. Petrov had seconds to decide: trust the computers or trust his instinct. He declared it a false alarm. He was right. A computer glitch had mistaken sunlight reflecting off clouds for missile launches. One man's judgment saved the world. But we've been lucky before, and luck runs out.
In 1995, Russia's early warning systems detected a missile off their coast. President Yeltsin activated the nuclear briefcase. For the first time ever, it was opened and ready to launch a counterstrike. 8 minutes to decide. 8 minutes until Armageddon. At the last second, they identified it. A Norwegian research rocket studying the aurora borealis. Norway had notified Russia weeks earlier, but the message never reached the right desk. We came within minutes of accidental nuclear war over a weather rocket. These aren't Cold War relics. In 2020, the U.S. withdrew from key nuclear treaties. Russia followed. China is rapidly expanding its arsenal. North Korea conducts regular missile tests. Iran enriches uranium closer to weapons grade. The infrastructure that prevents nuclear war, treaties, hotlines, verification systems, is crumbling. And everyone is building faster, smaller, more sophisticated weapons. The fuse grows shorter by the day. While nuclear weapons represent instant annihilation, another threat moves in slow motion, but with equal finality. Climate change. In 2007, the bulletin added climate disruption to the Doomsday Clock calculation. The scientists realized something terrifying. Environmental collapse could end civilization just as surely as nuclear war. We've warmed Earth 1.2 degrees Celsius since pre-industrial times. That might sound negligible until you understand the consequences. 2023 was the hottest year in 125,000 years. Ocean temperatures broke records every single month. Canada burned through its worst fire season in recorded history, scorching an area larger than Greece. Antarctica's ice shelves are fracturing. Greenland loses 280 billion tons of ice annually. When this water floods the oceans, hundreds of coastal cities will drown. Miami, Shanghai, Mumbai, Amsterdam. They're already living on borrowed time. But here's what the headlines miss. We're approaching tipping points. The Amazon rainforest, the lungs of our planet, is transforming into savanna. It now releases more carbon than it absorbs. Once this accelerates past a threshold, it becomes irreversible.
The Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, the current system that regulates weather across entire continents, is slowing down. If it collapses, Europe plunges into a deep freeze while tropical regions become uninhabitable. Permafrost in Siberia is thawing, releasing methane, a greenhouse gas 80 times more potent than CO2. There are 50 billion tons trapped beneath the ice. If released, it would accelerate warming beyond anything in human history. These aren't predictions, they're already happening. And unlike nuclear war, you can't negotiate a treaty with physics. You can't de-escalate with chemistry. The laws of thermodynamics don't care about politics or economics. We're conducting an experiment on the only planet we have, and we won't know if it's fatal until it's too late to stop it. In 2024, the bulletin added a new threat to their calculation for the first time in 17 years: artificial intelligence. Not the AI of science fiction, but the AI of right now. Systems that can write code, compose music, generate photorealistic videos, and beat humans at nearly every cognitive task we can measure. GPT-4, DALL-E, Midjourney. These names might not trigger the same fear as nuclear missiles, but perhaps they should. Because we're building intelligence we don't fully understand, with capabilities we can't fully control, advancing at speeds we can't fully predict. An AI developed by DeepMind mastered protein folding, a problem that stumped scientists for 50 years. Another AI discovered new antibiotics by analyzing molecular structures no human would consider. These are breakthrough moments. But breakthroughs cut both ways.
The same technology that discovers medicine can design bioweapons. The same algorithms that write poetry can generate infinite propaganda. The same neural networks that beat chess grandmasters now pilot autonomous weapons, deciding who lives and dies without human intervention. In 2023, over 1,000 AI researchers, including the creators of these systems, signed an open letter calling AI an extinction-level risk on par with nuclear war and pandemics. Their own creations terrify them. Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, quit Google to warn the world freely. He believes we have a 10 to 20% chance of AI causing human extinction within the next 30 years. Think about that probability. Would you board a plane with a 20% chance of crashing? The critical danger isn't killer robots, it's misalignment. An AI optimizing for a goal, any goal, might pursue that objective in ways catastrophic to humanity. Tell an AI to cure cancer, and it might decide eliminating humans eliminates cancer. Tell it to maximize paperclip production, and it might convert all matter on Earth, including us, into paperclips. This sounds absurd, but it illustrates a deeper truth. Super-intelligent systems pursuing goals not perfectly aligned with human values could inadvertently destroy us while accomplishing their mission. And we're racing forward with no agreement on safety protocols, no international oversight, and billion-dollar incentives to move faster than competitors. We're in an AI arms race, and the finish line might be extinction. COVID-19 killed 7 million people, brought the global economy to its knees, revealed how unprepared civilization is for biological threats. But here's the terrifying part. COVID-19 was mild compared to what's possible. Its mortality rate was roughly 1%. Infectious, yes, but survivable for most. Now imagine a pathogen with COVID's transmissibility and Ebola's 70% fatality rate. It's not hypothetical. In 2011, researchers created a mutant H5N1 bird flu virus transmissible between mammals. The study aimed to understand pandemic risks, but it also created a blueprint for bioterrorism. The journal Science nearly refused to publish it. The U.S. government convened emergency meetings because the research proved something chilling. With modern genetic engineering, you can create pandemic-level pathogens in university laboratories. CRISPR gene editing technology costs less than $10,000. The knowledge is freely available online. The barriers to entry are evaporating. A disgruntled scientist, a terrorist organization, a nation-state pursuing bioweapons, any of them could engineer the next plague. And synthetic biology is advancing exponentially. In 2023, researchers synthesized a virus from scratch using mail-order DNA. No natural samples needed, just a genetic sequence and accessible technology. The same tools that promise to cure genetic diseases can weaponize evolution itself. Natural pandemics emerge randomly, giving us some warning as they evolve and spread. Engineered pandemics could be designed for maximum lethality, environmental stability, and resistance to vaccines. Released intentionally, spread globally before detection, unstoppable. The Bulletin understands this. After COVID-19 exposed our vulnerabilities, biological threats became a permanent factor in the Doomsday Clock calculation. Because we now live in an era where a single person with the right knowledge and equipment could trigger an extinction event, and we've built no meaningful safeguards to prevent it. Here's what makes our moment in history uniquely dangerous. These threats don't exist in isolation. They interact, they amplify, they cascade. Climate change doesn't just flood coastlines, it triggers mass migration, which destabilizes nations, which increases conflict, which raises nuclear risks. A cyber attack doesn't just shut down infrastructure, it disrupts food supplies, which causes social unrest, which provides opportunities for bioterrorism. AI doesn't just automate warfare, it accelerates misinformation, which erodes trust, which prevents cooperation on climate solutions, which pushes us toward collapse. We've built a civilization of exquisite complexity and terrifying fragility. In 2021, a single container ship blocking the Suez Canal disrupted 12% of global trade. One ship, 6 days, billions in losses.
In 2003, a software bug in Ohio cascaded into the largest blackout in North American history. 50 million people without power, critical infrastructure offline. These were accidents. Now imagine them weaponized. A coordinated cyber attack targeting power grids during a heat wave. A disinformation campaign undermining vaccine distribution during a pandemic. An AI-designed bioweapon released amid political instability. The systems we depend on, energy, food, water, communication, finance, are interconnected beyond our ability to fully comprehend. And they're optimized for efficiency, not resilience. One failure propagates to the next, like dominoes arranged in increasingly complex patterns. When the first tile falls, you can't predict where the cascade ends. This is what systems theorists call asynchronous failure, when multiple shocks hit simultaneously, overwhelming our capacity to respond. A pandemic, an economic crisis, a climate disaster, a military conflict, all happening at once. Not a hypothetical. We experienced a preview during COVID-19 when a health crisis triggered economic collapse, social fragmentation, and geopolitical tension simultaneously. Next time, we might not recover. Because complex systems have thresholds. Push them beyond certain limits, and they don't bend, they break. Permanently. 90 seconds to midnight. But the clock can move backward. In 1963, after the Cuban Missile Crisis brought us to the brink, the U.S. and Soviet Union signed the Partial Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. The clock moved back to 12 minutes. In 1991, when the Cold War ended and both nations agreed to massive arms reductions, it moved to 17 minutes, the furthest from midnight it's ever been. The clock has moved backward 21 times in its history, each time because humanity chose cooperation over conflict, because we recognized shared threats require shared solutions. That path still exists. Nuclear weapons can be dismantled, treaties can be strengthened, the infrastructure of arms control can be rebuilt, climate change can be slowed. Renewable energy is now cheaper than fossil fuels in most markets. Battery technology is advancing rapidly. Carbon capture is improving. AI development can be regulated. Safety standards can be established. International oversight can be implemented if nations agree to prioritize survival over competitive advantage. Pandemic preparedness can be revolutionized. Early warning systems, rapid vaccine development, global health infrastructure, biosecurity protocols. The solutions exist, the technology exists, the knowledge exists. What's missing is collective will. In 1962, when Kennedy and Khrushchev stood on the nuclear precipice, they chose to step back. They established the Moscow-Washington hotline. They began arms negotiations. They recognized that annihilating each other served no one's interests. They were ideological enemies, but they understood mutual extinction was the ultimate loss. We need that clarity now. Because the threats we face are planetary. Climate change doesn't respect borders. Pandemics don't require visas. Nuclear fallout drifts across continents. AI development happens everywhere simultaneously. No single nation can solve these problems. No ideology has a monopoly on survival. Either we coordinate or we vanish. The poet W.H. Auden wrote, "We must love one another or die." That's not sentimentality. That's physics. That's game theory. That's the mathematical reality of living on a finite planet with infinite destructive capacity. Cooperation isn't idealism. It's self-interest properly understood. The path is narrow. The window is closing. The clock keeps ticking. But the choice remains ours. Every January, the world holds its breath. The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists convenes. They analyze threats, they debate, they calculate. Then they announce where the clock stands. 2 minutes forward means we're less safe. 2 minutes backward means we've bought ourselves time. In January 2023, they moved it to 90 seconds. The announcement was global news. In January 2024, it remained at 90 seconds, the first time the clock hadn't moved in consecutive years since 2019. In January 2025, it stayed at 90 seconds again. The clock isn't moving because the world isn't changing. We're frozen at the edge. Rachel Bronson, president of the Bulletin, said, "The Doomsday clock is no longer a warning. It's a stark statement of the perilous moment we're living through." 90 seconds to midnight doesn't mean we have 90 seconds. It means we're closer to catastrophe than any generation before us. It means the margin of error has vanished. The buffer between crisis and collapse has eroded. The distance between survival and extinction has narrowed to nothing. One miscalculation, one accident, one act of madness or miscommunication, that's all it takes. But here's what the clock also means. Midnight hasn't struck. We're not extinct. We're not irradiated. We're not suffocating on a dying planet. We still have agency. We still have choice. We still have time, measured not in hours, but in actions. Every treaty signed, every emission reduced, every weapon dismantled, every safety protocol implemented, every moment of international cooperation, these move the clock backward. The question isn't whether we can step back from the edge. The question is whether we will. We are 7.8 billion people sharing one small planet. We have created symphonies and skyscrapers, decoded genomes and reached distant worlds, written poetry and proved theorems, built civilizations from nothing but thought and cooperation. We are capable of extraordinary things. And yes, we are also capable of destroying everything we've built, of ending the story before we've learned how it could have concluded. But extinction is not inevitable. Every challenge we face is solvable. Every threat is addressable. The clock moved backward before. It can move backward again. Not through miracles, not through luck, through choice. The choice to see ourselves not as nations or tribes or ideologies, but as one species with one shared fate. The choice to value the future as much as the present, to consider generations not yet born when we make decisions today. The choice to channel our brilliance towards survival rather than destruction, to build rather than break, to cooperate rather than compete to the death. Carl Sagan, reflecting on that famous photograph of Earth from space, a pale blue dot suspended in a sunbeam, wrote, "There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand." This is our stand. This is our moment. The clock is ticking, but midnight has not struck. And every second we remain is a second we can choose differently. The question was never whether we would face existential threats. The question was always whether we would face them together. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Time is running out, but it hasn't run out yet.